I'm quite glad that Gail gave you such an extensive and important introduction into sensory science and descriptive analysis. That means I can skip to the more interesting parts, which of course involves sensory science as well. Imagine this. At the end of a long workday, you're on your way home, and all you want, is one nice, relaxing dinner. You have everything at home. The only thing that's missing is a bottle of good wine that goes well with your food. So you head down the grocery store, and you browse through the wine aisle, looking at bottle after bottle, label after label, trying to decide which wine it will be. Today, you don't want your typical wine, if you happen to have one. Today, you want something different, and you have no idea how to decide. Luckily, wine marketing is here to rescue, and you find this bottle that has a gold medal on it. Some wine expert rated it 96 or 94 out of 100 points, and it has a nice little descriptor card next to it reading, "This 2009 is a perfect example of weightless finesse. It's an intellectually satisfying wine." And all you can think is, I want to be intellectually satisfied. So you grab this bottle, and you buy it and head home. Once you arrive at home, you open a bottle, you pour yourself a nice glass. If you're fancy, like me, you swirl it a little bit, and you sniff it. But very soon, you take a big sip and swallow, and then this happens. And you hate this wine, it's disgusting, and all you keep thinking is, what's wrong with that wine? Is that the same wine that the expert had? And because the expert told you it's an intellectually satisfying wine, you're like, I have no idea what good wine is. So, who decides what a good wine is? We are surrounded by people, because with any other food product, actually, your more likely reaction would be, I taste it, I don't like it, it's bad. With wine, it's different. You immediately start questioning yourself and your ability to perceive. Wine experts, or some might call them also wine snobs, tend to use a very special language. They use descriptors such as intellectually satisfying, weightless finesse, or my personal favorite, this is a real wine description, and I don't know about you, I have no idea about warm paving stones and how they taste like. I don't know if I want to taste that in a wine, and to be honest, I'm scared by that wine. I don't want to meet that wine in a dark corner somewhere on the road. So those descriptors are not very helpful, in my opinion. They're intimidating. They even imply that you're an idiot because you can't appreciate that intellectually satisfying wine. So who can judge what a good wine is? The short answer, every one of you. Because if you like a wine in a particular moment, that per se makes it a good wine. The long answer is why I hope you stay here and don't leave now, because I'm going to have a couple more interesting things coming up. In my laboratory, we are interested in wine sensory attributes and how those correlate between experts and consumers. And we are particularly interested in the last years about wine quality assessment. So a couple of years ago, a graduate student, Beatriz Machado, she conducted her research project on highly priced red wines from all over the world. She had 11 wines that were scored by 3 different wine gurus, and she gathered a group of people for a descriptive analysis panel. And just as Gail said, descriptive analysis is both a qualitative and a quantitative assessment of a product. Could be a food, could be a wine, could be the chair you're sitting on. And it consists of 2 phases. It's a training phase, where the group of people comes up with descriptive terms that are more tangible than intellectually satisfying. One of the attributes that the panel actually came up with is herbal aroma. or bitter taste, or astringent mouthfeel, which is this drying, puckering feeling you get if you drink some red wines. So the group came up with a total of 24 descriptors, and most importantly, they agreed on the word they put on the descriptor, and they had a corresponding reference standard. So for example, for the herbal character, they put some dried herbs in a rather bland base wine, and they agreed that whenever we use to describe this wine the word herbal character, herbal aroma, everybody in the group knew it was 2 pinches of dried herbs mixture in a bland wine. The second part of the training is the quantitative assessment, so we also do some intensity training with those panelists. But once the training is done, the group separates and everybody's on his or her own in individual tasting booths, tasting the wines under very controlled conditions, blindly, and rating each of those sensory attributes. What you end up getting is a sensory profile, a fingerprint of each of these 11 wines. And what Beatrice, the panel leader, did at the end was she correlated those sensory profiles to the scores from the wine gurus, because she was interested if some gurus have a preferred sensory profile for their wines. And this is exactly what she found. She found for each wine guru, there were some certain sensory attributes that the guru looked for and rated high in the wines. So for example, Guru Y at the bottom really liked wines that had a higher, sweeter taste and more body, while Guru Z really liked wines with medicinal, earthy, and leather aroma characters. What Beatrice found was, yes, there are certain sensory descriptors that correlate well with each of these experts. And if you happen to like earthy, leathery aroma wines, you can just go with whatever Guru Z recommends, and you'll be happy and most likely satisfied with the wine choice. If you don't like that, too bad. You're on your own, tasting on your own. The other thing that she found is that the same identical wine can be judged very differently by 3 different wine experts. And one would think, at least the experts should agree, right? Well, unfortunately, this is not the case. A colleague of mine, Dr. Rob Hodgson, is a retired professor of oceanography, but he's also a winemaker. And he got really frustrated because every year he makes some wine, he puts them in different wine competitions, and the results never match. In one competition, one wine gets a gold medal, and the other one, they nearly kick it out of the door, and he couldn't understand. And he thought, can't be just always my wine. Must be something about the competition. Because he's also a statistician, he collected data from 13 different US wine competitions, and he compared the outcome. He had over 2,400 wines that were entered in at least 3 out of those 13 wine competitions, and he could simply compare what the outcome is and how consistent those competitions were. And keep in mind, all those competitions consist of wine experts that have a lot of tasting experience. So what Bob Hodgson found was basically this. The probability of winning a gold medal at one competition is stochastically independent of the probability of receiving a gold at another competition, indicating that winning a gold medal is greatly influenced by chance alone. Which basically means the probability that you obtain a gold medal for your wine is more driven how many competitions you enter than how good your wine actually is. So based on these results, we conducted another study in my laboratory, this time asking the question, judging wine quality, do we need experts, consumers, or trained panelists? So for this, we selected 27 wines that were all judged in a major wine competition. They were all Cabernet Sauvignon wines. And so we had for each of those wines, we had the quality scores. About a third of those wines were considered high in quality because they either got a gold or double gold medal. About 1/3 were either silver or bronze medals, so medium quality. And then we had about a third of them which were low quality. They didn't get any award. And we tasted those wines with 3 different populations. We had 28 wine experts, which were winemakers, wine sommeliers, wine buyers. We had 174 wine consumers, and we also, similar to Beatrice, trained the Descriptive Analysis Panel to obtain this sensory profile and see if quality somehow correlates with particular sensory attributes. What did we find? What I show you here is the first result for the wine experts. On the left-hand side, each of the line represents a quality vector for one of the 28 wine experts. And it's important in which direction those vectors point. And you see that most of the vectors point towards the right-hand side. The experts were somewhat in agreement about the quality of those wines. So they thought similar wines were high in quality. On the right-hand side, you see the actual wines color-coded according to their quality. So in gold, you have the double gold and gold medal wines, which were high quality. In blue, you have the silver and bronze medal, the medium quality wines. And in green, you have the no award or no medal wines, the lower quality wines. And as you can see, most of those wines, the silver and the gold wines, are positioned towards the right-hand side of the plot, meaning that's the area where the quality, the high quality vectors of the experts point to. So there was quite some agreement between the wine competition outcome and our independent wine expert panel, because they agreed that wines that either got a gold medal or a silver medal were high or medium high in quality. What you can also see in here, there is now and then a green wine in the group of the higher quality wines, which is something we found with both the experts and the sensory panel. Wines that had identical sensory profiles and were rated similarly in quality were actually had very different competition outcomes. So similar profiles, similar assessment by the wine experts. One was a gold, one was a non-award in the wine competition. So that indicates that the wine competition judges were not very consistent in their quality assessment. How did the consumers do? Well, good for the wine industry. Each wine was liked by at least a couple of consumers, which is good for the low-quality wine producers. They're all commercially available. But what we see is basically consumers are all over the map. The different colors of the consumers correspond to 4 different consumer segments. And this segmentation was only based on their liking and quality assessment behavior. We tried to correlate those different consumer segments to age, gender, income, wine consumption, wine knowledge. We gave them a little wine knowledge quiz, and there was no correlation. It seems even the highly knowledgeable and educated 5 times a week drinking people, if presented in a blind tasting with wines, they actually like some low-quality wines if they don't know what they're looking for. What does this tell us? Well, experts agree in their quality assessment, and if you think about it, it's not surprising. Most of those wine experts are winemakers. They taste every day. They base business decisions on the tasting outcomes, and they have to communicate among each other why they rate the quality of this particular one higher than the other one. So they do have some agreement in what a high-quality wine is. We don't see this with the consumers. We do see that humans are variable, humans are subjective, humans change their minds all the time, but we also see wine experts are humans, and even the wine gurus are humans. So my take-home message for you is, every day we dress ourselves, we present ourselves to the world, not giving a lot of thought how we are perceived. But if somebody asks us to buy a bottle of wine, we get all tied up in fears. I'm like, oh my goodness, how is my choice going to reflect on me? Well, I think you should drink what you like and not necessarily what you're told to be liked, because in the end, you are the ultimate judge. Thank you very much.